Welcome to Section 4, Building the Character Rig. In the last section, we learned how to model our first 3D character, and in this section, we are going to learn how to create a skeletal rig for our character. Throughout this section, we will learn about basic rigging theory, how to create our own character rig, applying bone weights, and lastly, how to add constraints and shape keys to make animation of our character easier. In this video, we will be going over basic rigging theory and how rigging fits into our 3D workflow. Within this video, we will learn what rigging is, what shape keys are, and lastly, which method should be used depending on the situation. The first thing we are going to learn is what rigging is. Rigging is basically the process of creating a 3D skeleton to represent our mesh model and control the movement of different vertices. By using this, we can also introduce stretching and squeezing of faces similar to that of skin or muscle. Each rig or armature is made up of one or more bones, and each bone has a weighted influence on the vertices around it. This means that by moving one bone, we will also move the surrounding vertices by different amounts. On a complex rig, it is very common that the influence weights of a bone overlap on multiple vertices, allowing for smoother control and blending. Once we have created a rig with multiple bones, we can then keyframe the position, rotation, and scale of a bone at different points in time. This will move different parts of the character and resemble a typical animation. The keyframe data of each bone is directly translated through the bone weights to the vertices of our mesh, giving the impression that our character is moving. Now that we know what a rig is, we are going to learn about shape keys. Shape keys in their simplest form are basically a keyframe of location data from each of the vertices on a mesh. This means that we can keyframe vertices in one position and then move the vertices in a later frame to resemble a different shape. This basically is referred to as morphing in its extreme. The advantage to using shape keys is that they can be mixed together to provide a large amount of variation. Depending on the situation, it can be more suitable to use one type of vertex influence compared to another. The good thing about rigging is that it is very robust and accurate. It has easily customizable weights and constraints, which in most cases will get the job done. However, the downside to using a rig is how long it takes to set up. Depending on the 3D model and how you have set up the rig, there can also be situations in which the automatic weight painting does not work. And additionally, it is also quite challenging to create a flexible facial rig for a character. The good thing about shape keys is that they are much faster and don't require very much setup. They allow for the ability to mix multiple shapes together for creating simple facial expressions. However, again, the downside is that they are not very accurate, especially not for dealing with things like character movement, such as a walk cycle. On top of this, it is also important you note that you cannot keyframe the rotation of a shape key, since all shape keys will only store the location data of each vertex. In general, it will often depend on the situation as to which method is most efficient to use.